views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome to Cultural Brilliance Radio, the DNA of organizational excellence with Claudette Rowley. Conversations that are transforming the world of culture and business. Claudette brings fresh, innovative perspectives that push the boundaries of what organizational cultures can and should be. Learn how to catalyze your organization's workforce into an authentic, intentional, and financially successful culture. Now here's your host, Claudette Rowley.
Hey, everybody, welcome. It's so great to have all of you tuning us in and turning us on. I love these conversations I get to have with Claudette Rowley here on Cultural Brilliance Radio. And the reason that I love them is because many of us work in organizations. And, some folks say that we are a reflection of the organization, and the organization is a reflection of who we are. Now, I am not the expert in this area, but Claudette really is. The question then becomes, how can change be revealed? Can we actually change the culture of an organization? And, this is an interesting conversation for a number of us, and you'll see why. Because we kind of think, maybe almost believe that, wait a minute, I'm kind of self-employed. I don't really need to listen to this. Or wait a minute, by the way, I'm part of a small business office here. We're doctors, and maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, I'm part of a radio network. I'm not sure what that culture looks like. Well, that's why Claudette's in the house today. Claudette Rowley. She is actually CEO of Cultural Brilliance, which is a fabulous organization that helps companies get at what is going on that's blocking them from establishing, creating, and changing to the best culture they could possibly have. And that's what today is about. So how do we go about this? How do we make sure that organizations learn from this? What can we do? Now, this is just a small part of what Claudette does. Beyond working with organizations on culture, she brings knowledge, information, workshops, webinars, webcasts, you name it. It's about creating an authentic dialogue so that companies can take a really look in a very safe way and say, oh, maybe we could do things differently. So today, can we change culture? How to improve organizational culture? Hotly debated, but can we change it? Claudette, welcome. It's great to have you here. I mean, isn't this interesting? We don't really look maybe at the company we're working for as having a culture, do we?
Often we don't, Pat. And I'm thrilled to be talking about this today. It's such a great topic. Can we change culture? Often people exist. This is one of the interesting aspects of culture is that because we're in an organization, we sometimes forget it's there. It's like being in your, family growing up. You didn't really think about whether you were in a family or not. You just were in one. And organizational culture can sometimes be like that for people. They don't really think about it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you find that the longer that you're in the organization, the more sort of embedded you are as being part of it, so you really can't see things perhaps that people that are newer to the organization might see? Or do you think some things are just obvious all around?
I think it's a mixed bag. Sometimes new people in the organization are going to notice things that everyone else has just accepted as part of how we operate as an organization. And then people who have been there a number of months or years are really familiar with the culture. They're the ones that know all that unspoken, the unspoken norms. We only, talk to so-and-so about certain topics. We never bring this up with the CEO, or we only bring it up in certain ways. So those folks are going to know all those things no one ever talks about, but everyone sort of, understands in their organizational language that they have to, rules they have to follow, ways of doing things that they need to use as guides.
Yeah. The word change, you know, when you say the word change, what kind of emotion does it bring up for people in the organizations now?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
A couple of different answers come to mind. One
Okay.
is that for some folks, they're going to cringe because they're
Yeah.
handling change after change after change.
Hmm.
Other people who have been waiting for a particular change to happen, perhaps like they've known it for a long time that something needed to change, might feel excited or relieved that the wheels are finally turning.
Hmm.
I heard a speaker recently say, who's a coach high up in a lot of organizations, and he said, when we talk about today's rapidly changing environment or things like that, or change is constant, he said it's at the point now where change is how people operate in organizations. It's not that there's too much change. It's not that it's rapid. It just is what it is now. Rapid change is how people live. And his assertion was that people are really at the end of what they can humanly cope with in terms of change. Like that it can't speed up anymore because people are already scrambling to try to keep up. Interesting perspective.
Yeah, it is. I mean, as people try to keep up, isn't that actually a change that has been going on in organizations, right? I mean, that's part of the change that's happening at a global level now is, people trying to keep up because we're now in organizations that are demanding almost like a one-touch delivery on things, right? I mean, that's the very nature that technology has driven. But what are some of the other drivers that affect an organization or a culture that may push them to change in whether they want to or not?
Sometimes often it's external factors. Maybe they're falling behind their competition.
Yeah.
They're not keeping up in some way. They're not making the money they need to make. Unfortunately, although we might think change should come from other things like people are suffering or being disrespected, it's often going to come from the externals. And however, as long as change is functional and productive, however it gets there is however it gets there.
Yeah. I mean, is it maybe too much to say that cultures do evolve?
I don't think it's too much to say that at all. I think cultures are actually, unless they've gotten really stuck and entrenched in a certain way, if we really can step back and look at culture, organizational culture, and any culture really, it is actually evolving, almost all the time. And sometimes it'll evolve in a way that's very dramatic or rapid, and that's when we'll tend to notice it. But it really, because it's people learning and interacting, and with internal influences and external influences, culture is, my perspective is that it's always evolving.
I think let's just take a moment, if we could, for people that, are tuning in, maybe have heard the dialogue on organizational culture or culture in general. But let's talk for a minute about what cultural is. What makes up the word culture? When we hear it from an organizational point of view, obviously it's got to have some kind of defining, set of circumstances or ideas. What is it that makes up a culture?
Yeah, I think of it in two different ways.
Okay.
One is that it's a set of beliefs and assumptions people have about what their organization values and expects from them. And so those beliefs and assumptions may or may not be true, but you could have almost a whole entire workforce in an organization believing something or assuming something about what's expected, and that's what they'll operate. They'll operate based on that. For example, if a company, if people believe and assume that you need to stay at work as long as the leader or CEO stays at work, whether or not that's true, they will assume that will eventually become part of the culture, that we need to stay there until the CEO leaves, even if that's 10 at night.
Yeah.
As an example of that. Another way, and this is definitely a nod to Ed Kirshine, who defines culture as the way, what we learn together as a workforce, as a set of employees. What we learn as we make decisions, solve problems, and move initiatives forward. We're always learning, and as we're learning and interacting together, our culture forms and evolves from there. And I love both of those definitions.
Is there a case being made on both sides? Like one is, oh yeah, we can change the workplace culture. Oh no, we can't. Is there this? What's this hot debate about?
Yeah, I think the hot debate about it is there's some folks who say, culture's everything, and so we need to come in and change the culture. And then others come in and say, well, yeah, culture's there and it's important, but we really need to look at other levers. Like, could we change a business process? Can we empower people more? Can we come in strategic ways to intervene that will get us where we need to go as an organization, but we don't necessarily need to actually look at the culture itself. And then there are other folks who think, the culture, because culture is driving everything. And I think of culture as another way of thinking about it is it's the same way as individual people. We have a mindset or a perspective on things. That's like our internal culture. That's the way our own individual culture about the world. And so then we have this collective, larger culture in an organization, this cultural intelligence that is always operating. And I think that so people, there are different schools of thought, Don't focus too much on culture. Focus on changing other aspects of the organization. Other people saying culture is everything. Focus there.
I think that for most people listening, they look at their organization and there are things that come to the surface that for them are very defining. They're defining moments that they can recall about the organization, the culture, the people in it. And, they want more information about, how do I act here? What do I do? What happens if what I believe in, my values, what happens if they're different? We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the neuroscience of culture, everyone. Claudette Rowley is in the house. Cultural Brilliance Radio right here, the DNA of organizational excellence. We'll be right back. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show, talk radio to thrive by. I am so thrilled to be talking to all of you. We have got talk radio for all of us. Are you ready and willing and able to accept all of the abundance you can muster up in your life? Yeah! Check us out, thedrpatshow.com, transformationtalkradio.com, transformationradio.fm.
Song of the Heart, Walking the Path of Light, from author and healer Francine Vale, is available now. Through Francine's life story, we learn how imperative it is to love one another. Once this simple truth is learned, peace on earth will prevail. Song of the Heart is a life lived and a story told for this purpose. To learn more about Francine and her amazing gifts, or to order your copy of the book today, visit angelsandlightbeings.com.
Are you ready to thread your life with intuition? Intuit Apparel can help you do just that. This is not just about a piece of clothing. This is about a movement, an awakening, and staying centered in life. Your life. Intuitive and host of the radio show Get Into It, Lynn Brown, was given this image with the intention of a clothing line designed to represent the essence of life itself. Visit intuitapparel.com now and wear your intuition with pride.
Holistic Medical Center is where you find it all. A healthy space with doctors who care, see, and listen to the whole you. Hi, this is Dr. Darvish. If you have not found an answer to your chronic symptoms, you will find answers here at Holistic Medical Center. Our doctors find the root cause of your symptoms and guide your body towards healing naturally. We transform lives from within. Visit drdarvish.com or call 425-451-0404.
A word of caution: if you prefer the status quo and you are not interested in improving every aspect of your life, this book will trigger the shift out of you. The Truth is Funny, Shift Happens is available now. Author Colette Steffen brings the powerful knowledge and life-changing energy and empowerment from the radio airwaves to the pages of her new book. To get your copy in paperback or ebook, visit thetruthisfunny.com today.
Sky Siegel co-hosts one of today's most popular psychic shows, Angels and Answers, with Artie Hoffman, as she communicates healing messages from the spirit world. These messages can be astounding, enlightening, and life-changing. Born with the God-given talent of inner guidance and the amazing ability to heal, Sky has healed thousands of people. Schedule a reading with Sky